Deep in the heart of the bustling interstellar station known as Nexus 9, where hundreds of species mingled and traded, there was a small, dimly lit restaurant tucked away in a corner of the station's food court. It didn't have flashy neon signs or holograms advertising its cuisine. All it had was a simple sign that read, Levi's Diner. And yet, every night, aliens from across the galaxy lined up to taste the rare culinary creations of Levi Fischer, the only human chef on the station. Levi had been on Nexus 9 for 5 years, working tirelessly to introduce the alien palate to the delights of Earth cuisine. His culinary training back on Earth had been in French and Italian fare, but here in the Nexus he had adapted his dishes to accommodate the strange biochemistries of his customers. His regulars included a wide range of species with wildly varying taste buds and dietary requirements. The entire endeavor was a balancing act, and Levi thrived on it. One evening, as Levi prepped a fusion dish of Verlakian seaweed and earth vegetables, a massive alien ducked through the doorway, its thick, armored hide scraping against the entryway. Levi recognized him instantly. Zorak, a towering member of the Jurvek species, whose digestive system was notorious for breaking down nearly any known substance. Zorak had been a regular since Levi had first opened the diner. Chef Levi, Zorak boomed, his deep voice resonating off the walls. I bring you a challenge. Levi turned with a smile, wiping his hands on his apron. Zorak, what challenge do you have for me tonight? The Jurvek leaned down, his piercing yellow eyes glinting with excitement. Our new ambassador, Moglen, has arrived on the station. He is not easy to please. Levi chuckled. He'd heard rumors of Ambassador Moglen's refined palate and his tendency to publicly disparage dishes he found lacking. He wasn't just any ambassador, he was a Mornai, a species whose culture revolved around food as a form of high art. Moglen was infamous for his biting critiques. Sounds like my kind of challenge, Levi replied, hiding a hint of anxiety in a grin. When can I expect him? He will arrive tomorrow evening, Zorak said. Prepare something legendary. After Zorak left, Levi spent hours brainstorming, his mind racing through potential combinations of Earth ingredients and alien delicacies he had stocked. Moglen would need something bold, something surprising. The next evening, as the Nexus artificial lights dimmed to simulate evening, the diners gathered in Levi's restaurant in anticipation. Among them sat the imposing figure of Ambassador Boglan. Tall and thin, with sharp, metallic blue skin, he radiated an air of regal disdain. His eyes narrowed and his lips pressed tightly in a skeptical frown. Levi took a deep breath and stepped forward to greet him. Ambassador Moglen, I'm Levi Fischer, and it's an honor to serve you tonight. Moglen gave a single, dismissive nod. Chef Levi, impress me if you can. Levi returned to his kitchen, mentally reviewing his plan. He would present Moglen with a dish that incorporated Earth's complex flavors and Nexus 9's rarest ingredients. He carefully prepared a plate of galactic coq au vin, a twist on the French classic. The chicken was marinated in a fusion of red wine and a Mornai acid fruit, giving it a sharp, tangy flavor. He sauteed Relakian sea mushrooms for a savory, umami note and added slivers of K-toxy root for a subtle sweetness. The finishing touch was a sprinkle of finely ground mint petals, known for their pebbles. When Levi presented the dish to Moglen, the ambassador lifted a small fork, tasted a morsel, and paused. The entire diner held its breath. Moglen chewed slowly, his expression inscrutable. Finally, he swallowed and set his fork down. Interesting, he said, almost grudgingly. For Moglen, interesting was a high compliment. Levi's heart leaped, but he kept his expression neutral, nodding politely. Thank you, Ambassador. I'm pleased it met your expectations. Just as Levi thought he was in the clear, a small figure stepped into the diner, cloaked in a simple gray robe. The figure lowered his hood, revealing a slender, hawk-nosed face with large, deep-set eyes that sparkled with curiosity. It was Thanin, a Praetorian who ran a high-end restaurant on the other side of the station. Levi had heard about him, but never met him personally. Praetorians were known for their unorthodox flavors and unique cooking methods, and Thanin's reputation was unparalleled. May I sample this dish as well? Thanin asked softly, his voice rich and melodic. Levi hesitated, but then nodded. He quickly prepared another plate and presented it to Thanin, who tasted the dish thoughtfully, pausing with each bite. When Thanin finally looked up, his face broke into a smile. This is remarkable. Wayne? Such a clever fusion of textures and flavors. Levi, is it? Levi nodded, a bit taken aback by the unexpected praise. Yes, Chef Thanin. You've created something special here, Levi, a flavor that unites our cultures. To Levi's surprise, Thanin returned to the diner the next evening with a proposal. I believe we could create something extraordinary together, Thanin said, his eyes alight with excitement. A dish that combines our culinary knowledge, one that no one in the galaxy has ever tasted before. Levi's eyes widened. I'm honored, Chef Thanin. I'd love to collaborate. Dan and Levi quickly got to work, spending long hours in the kitchen, experimenting with flavors and techniques. They shared ideas, laughing and learning from each other's quirks and preferences. Dan introduced Levi to ingredients he'd never seen before, vibrant Quailian herbs that tingled on the tongue, glistening Zillion tubers that melted like butter, and delicate Rithian spores that added a subtle floral undertone. In turn, Levi shared earth spices, showcasing the warmth of cinnamon, the fire of chili peppers, and the richness of vanilla. Dan marveled at the complexity of these spices, which were unlike anything he'd encountered. Finally, after days of experimentation, they crafted a dish they called Eclipse. It was a layered masterpiece, with a base of tender braised Jorgath meat, a protein rarely found outside Cratoria, infused with earth spices, and seared with a glaze made from the acidic Mornaya fruit and earth's honey. They garnished it with Rithian spores and a sprinkle of Meant petals, finishing it off with a smoky reduction that lingered in like a whisper. Word had spread quickly, and by the time they were ready to present Eclipse, Levi's diner was filled with diners from across Nexus 9, curious to see what these two chefs had created. Zorak, Moglin, and other familiar faces gathered around, anticipation buzzing in the air. As Levi and Thanin presented the dish, Levi couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. "This is a collaboration between two worlds," he announced, "and we hope it brings you as much joy as it brought us to create." The diners tasted the dish in unison, and Levi watched their faces, hoping to see that flicker of awe that had greeted his best creations. It started with Zorak, who let out a low rumble of pleasure, his scales vibrating. Moglin took a single bite and closed his eyes, savoring the explosion of flavors, his cold demeanor melting away. One by one, expressions of delight, wonder, and surprise crossed the faces of Levi's customers. Then turned to Levi, a smile playing on his lips. "I believe we succeeded." As the crowd enjoyed the dish, strangers began talking to each other, sharing stories about their homeworlds, their food traditions, and their favorite flavors. Levi's heart swelled with pride. It was everything he'd hoped his little diner could become. Nexus 9 wasn't just a station anymore. It was a gathering place for new friends and old, united by a love of food. Over the next few weeks, the reputation of Eclipse spread across the station. Levi and Thanin were invited to demonstrate their culinary techniques at events, and other chefs began experimenting with fusion dishes inspired by their success. Levi's diner was no longer just a cozy hideaway, but a central hub for culinary experimentation, a place where people came not just to eat, but to share and connect. One night, as Levi was closing up, he heard a knock on the door. It was Zurich, his Jurvek friend, holding a small, ornate box. "Levi," Zorak rumbled. His usually boisterous voice softened. "I wanted to thank you for what you've done for Nexus 9. Your food, it brought us together in a way I didn't think possible." He handed Levi the box, inside which lay a small iridescent pendant, a precious stone from the Jurvek homeworld. Levi was speechless. "I'll treasure it," Levi said finally, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Thank you, Zorak." As he walked back into the empty diner, he looked around at the tables, the dim lighting, the clell. Inking glasses and empty plates, all remnants of a shared experience that transcended species. He realized he'd done more than just create a restaurant on Nexus 9. He'd built a bridge, one that connected different worlds through the simple, universal joy of good food. And somewhere in the quiet hum of Nexus 9, he knew his dream was alive. The universe was vast, filled with unknown wonders and unimaginable diversity. But here, in this little corner of space, they'd all found something they could agree on, a taste of home, no matter where they were from. As he locked up for the night, Levi couldn't help but smile. It was more than a meal, it was a legacy.